Okay, so let's talk about how do we save a configuration. It's a relatively straightforward process. The easiest way to do it is to save a configuration up to an FTP server. So that's how we do it in our labs. So essentially, we're going to go save path file name. So if it's an FTP server, we'll go save FTP. We'll give the IP address of the FTP server. We'll then give the hierarchy on the server as to where it's going. So let's say we were saving it into the configs folder, for example. We would go FTP, our FTP address is 10.10.40.12. That's our server. So in our case, we'd be in configuration mode. So notice we're in configuration mode. The command is save, to save the configuration. We're going to give it a path. In our case, it would be FTP : //10.10.40.12, and then we'd go / where we're going to put it. So we'll put it in the configs directory. We go configs, and then we go / and give it a name. So let's just say, I don't know, you guys are saving your own sort of config. You might call it Sam Isabel Lab 5. Save. Okay. And then I would save it. Okay. So that's a fairly simple process. I'm going to kind of show you how to make it a little bit easier as well in a minute. Now, what if I wanted to load a configuration? So we've saved it. We want to load a configuration. A few options with loading. The load command allows me to load a built-in factory default configuration. So that's like the reset back to how it was coming out of the box when it came out of the factory. There is one which we're going to use mostly is a thing called load override, which takes the configuration that you're loading and totally replaces the current configuration with the new one. So absolutely overwrites everything. Another one which is really quite useful is the load merge option as well. That's kind of handy where you've got some basic system type information about the current unit. So you might have the host name, you may have some other information specific to that particular system, but there's some configuration you want to import and merge into your configuration, like put some interface IPs on, maybe it's a routing protocol you want to put in, maybe the security policies you want to put in place, whatever it is. You can use the load merge, so it actually merges the new with the existing and doesn't overwrite things that aren't or doesn't use the information in the new to overwrite the existing. So the new stuff, the stuff that isn't there, it adds in. Okay, adds the extra in without wiping out some stuff that you may not want to wipe out. There is a patch. You can actually load a patch. You can do a replace on configuration data. You execute a set of commands on an existing configuration, and you can update an existing configuration. The ones that you kind of use mostly are the merge and the override, kind of the most useful ones. Now, you can load a configuration from the terminal. In other words, you have a configuration file that you've opened up on your local system. You go copy, and then you log into your device, you type load terminal, and then you press the enter key, and then you paste it in on the screen. Okay, you can do it that way. That is not the preferred way of doing it. The preferred way of doing it is actually pulling it in from a file. So you actually reference a file on an FTP server. I just have heard from the Juniper techs that Sometimes the load terminal creates a few issues. It doesn't load properly. Okay. So the other way of doing it is you load it so you load it relative to the current configuration hierarchy. So that's kind of where you might go a load merge, kind of merge it in. So the other way of doing it is you actually load it from a particular location. So where are we here? So you will load it. So I want to load it from an FTP server. I would go load, merge or load override, and then I would go FTP : / 10.10.4.12, and I'd give the exact location of that configuration file that I was loading, and it just goes away, goes on the server, grabs that file, and loads it in, and that now becomes the candidate configuration. So that new file that you've just loaded, then commit it, and then it goes active. So I'll give you a demonstration of that. This is something I've already shown you. Use the run to execute operational commands in operational mode, CLI commands in configuration mode. So similar to the Cisco do command, Juniper uses run instead. So here we go, run ping, for example, while in configuration mode. The really good thing about Juniper, which you don't get in Cisco, is when you use the run command, the context-sensitive help still works. So you can still use the spacebar to complete commands and all that kind of stuff, but you don't get that in Cisco. That all drops off when you're in that mode. It still works, so that's really nice. So use run. Okay, so we had a look at user interface options and CLI and its features. So what I wanted to show you, we'll get some review questions. Let's do the review questions. Which modes exist within the Juniper operating system? There are two that we talked about, which were, anybody? Which were operational and configuration. Yep. Which operations can be performed in each mode? Well, I guess which kind of operations can be performed. So in operational mode, what kind of thing can we do? Monitoring, testing, debugging. Configuration mode, obviously we can make changes. Which keystrokes complete a system command and a user-defined variable? Okay, so there are two possibilities of how to complete a system command. What are they? Space and tab key, and a variable, the tab key. Okay. Which command provides the quickest method of returning to the top of the hierarchy? Top. Yeah, top. That's the command. What is the difference between the active and candidate configurations?
Active is actually the one which is running.
Yep, active is running.
Candidate's the one you just configured before.
Correct. Candidate is the one that you are currently changing, you are currently configuring, making changes to. That's the candidate. Yeah. Which command displays the difference between the candidate and active configurations? It is commit, compare. Commit, compare. And we have a lab 1. Ooh, we can do lab 1. Okay, so that's your first lab you're going to do is lab 1. Right, now let me just demonstrate to you. We're going to open PuTTY, and let me just get PuTTY up here. PuTTY, I've still got a VPN active here. Yes, looking good. Okay, so here's PuTTY. No, PuTTY has died. We are going to restart that session. I hope. Can I? New session, duplicate session. Okay, go away. Yes. Login as. Look, this is not good, is it? I'll just drop this down. Yes, I probably did. That's not even typing. Okay. just get my VPN back up again. Otherwise this won't work very well. Is this, I'll be working, let's see. No, it doesn't look good. Setup, looks like it's up, looks like it's in. No. Start it. Okay, lab. Okay, so here we are. We're logged into ISRX A1. This is in rack 1 I'm in right now. Now let's open up my FTP server. I'm just going to show you kind of the easy way to load a configuration. Well, let's save a configuration first. Go to Juniper, students work. Let's go pod A. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy that address right there off that address line, and we will go into configuration mode, and I'm going to save my configuration. Oh, somebody's already in there. Who is that? Maybe it's me. Okay, let's just save the configuration. So I'm going to save my configuration. I'm going to save it to, I'm going to right click here, and it's going to paste that address that I've just copied straight in there for me. Okay, it's going to save me typing and making all kinds of mistakes. And this is going to be called Danny test1.conf. Okay, so there we are. I'm going to save that, enter, and it wrote 78 lines of configuration to that location. All good. Let's go and see if it actually worked. We'll do a refresh on that, and there it is. There's my configuration. Okay, so it has in fact saved that. And if we were to open it up and have a look at it, there it is. Okay, that's the configuration that I just saved. Okay, that was pretty easy, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, it was pretty easy. Okay, there it is. So how did we do that? I copied the location. Alright, I just copied it, Control C. I went over to there, I typed save, and then I went right click and it pasted it in for me. And then I gave it a name. Okay, Danny, let's call it test2.conf. For example, enter, and there it is. Alright, and we can go and check that one, and there it is. Okay, so that's a fairly simple process. Very easy to save a configuration. Alright, so you can be doing anything on your labs, get to a point where you say, actually I want to save my configuration, save it up onto the FTP server very easily, and you can go and load that configuration anytime you like. Now let's just say I have saved it, and now I want to load it. How do I load it? Again, very easy. I can go to that configuration, right click, and go copy link address, like that, very simple. Let's go down to here and go load. I'm going to do a load override. Right click that, there it is, enter. Done, load complete. That was easy, wasn't it? Okay, I just went over to the FTP server, copied the address, right click, copy link address, okay, into there, load, I could have went merge, load merge, we'll do a load merge, it's the same configuration, it makes absolutely no difference. Load merge, there it is, and there it is, load complete. Okay, now that I've done that, I would have to commit it to make it go live, okay, because I've just loaded it. Alright, so there we are, saving, quite a simple matter. That was me saving it using the save command, and loading it using the either load or override, which is what you're going to be doing, or load merge, which you would do if there was only certain things you wanted to actually update and leave other things unchanged. Does that make sense? That wasn't hard, was it? Very easy to load and save configurations. Alright, so the easiest thing is to open up the FTP server in a browser, get the exact location and just copy and paste it straight in. Okay, using right click into PuTTY. Alrighty, yeah.
Live streaming is gone.
Oh, live streaming is gone. Live streaming is gone. Oh dear.
Oh, blood.
Oh dear. It should be streaming PuTTY. It isn't. Oh well. Let me. Let's see if live streaming wants to go live for me. Go over there. I'll click in there. PuTTY is up. There's PuTTY. Go PuTTY. There's a bit of a delay.
So we can live stream Danny.
I'd say I'd probably have to close PuTTY and open it again to make it, you know, kick in.
Does it save on YouTube or you?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So I can always replay.
Yeah, I mean, I know it obviously it was working before, but what are you going to do? Edit it? Oh, yeah.
I can always replay versions.
PuTTY, go PuTTY. All right, we're going to try and get PuTTY up and do a little demo of that again on PuTTY. Let's do it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we need to sort out why PuTTY's not live streaming. We've got a little bit of an issue over here. I don't totally know what that is. Save executables. That's it there. That's it there. That's it there. Yeah, that should be working. Yeah. Okay. We don't know why. Alrighty. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the initial setup of a device. So here it is. You have bought yourself a new Juniper SRX device or whatever device it is. Unpack it out of the box, and now we're going to set it up. So let's take a look at what we need to do here. We're going to look at how do we return a device running the Juniper operating system to its factory default state. Why would you do that? Maybe you're going to sell it on eBay, something like that. Okay, maybe that's the reason you do it. List and perform initial configuration tasks. We'll take a look at what they are and describe interface types and perform basic interface configuration tasks. So we'll get into that. Let's take a look at the factory default configuration. What this does is you unpack it. So there's the box. See, there's the box. That's you unpacking it out of the box. And this is the factory default configuration. So basically, you turn it on, you boot it up, you can log in as root. It has no password. So by default, there is no password. It has system logging turned on to track events, and it has some extra parameters built into it that are dependent upon the particular device that you are working with. Now we can load that configuration by typing in load factory default, and that will activate the factory default configuration. Now, one of the things that you must do, if you've got a factory default configuration comes in with no passwords, no nothing, one of the things that you must do before you can commit any configuration at all on the device is you have to set a password. Okay, you can't commit anything until you put a root password on it, and the command for that is set system root authentication plain text password, which is the command for setting the root password. So you have to type that in. Now, if you go and put some configuration on it, you can give it a host name, you can set some IP addresses, you can do whatever you like. But until you put a root password on it, it will not allow you to commit any changes. Okay, so you've got to do that. So basically you type that command in, you press enter, it'll say, okay, enter your password, put a password in, enter, so enter it again, and then it's set. Then you commit that. Then it will allow you to commit those changes. Okay, but that has to be done before you can commit anything. Okay, so powering on, powering off. Junos devices don't like you just ripping out the power cord. Okay, so I'm not at all happy about that situation. Okay, so when you do power off, you can go and type request system halt, which is at the shell. That's actually a Unix shell command, which you can use. You can also type in, so if you're going to power off, you can also type in request system power off. That's another command that you can type. Request system power off, and actually power the system down. If you wanted to reboot the system, you just type in request system reboot, and it'll reboot the system. So essentially, the request system halt command is something that you can use generally, but you use request system power off. Actually, turn it off. All right. So we've set initial configuration. You have got to put the password in. You also typically want to set up a host name. You typically want to set up time, set up your system time. You'll typically want to set up remote access protocols so you can log in and configure it remotely. And you'll typically want to configure your management interface so that you can SSH into it, and probably set up a static route for the management network or for management traffic. So in other words, if the network that you are going to be managing it from is a different network to the IP address that the management interface is on, then you need to create a route to get to the management network. Otherwise, you won't be able to log into the device. Okay, so for example, when I created these configurations that we're now using for our Juniper devices, I created a route that was going to allow you to be able to access the device from our VPNs. So you can log in from anywhere via our VPNs, and there is a route on each of these configurations that allows you to configure the device remotely. Okay. Without that route, you would not be able to connect to the device using SSH. Okay, you have to go in through the access server every time. So you need a route to get from wherever you are, whatever network you are on, to the device. Okay, that's the management traffic route. Okay, so when you first unpack it out of the box, you get this little amnesiac statement at the top, okay, which is kind of funny, but basically it means I don't know who I am or what I am. So basically it's an amnesiac, and then you have to, it indicates the factory default configuration. You then log in as root. You then arrive at the shell prompt, okay, so you're not at the CLI. You have to get to the CLI, you type CLI. Pretty straightforward, and then there you are, CLI. Go into configuration mode, and now we're ready to go and set up some information. You might give it a host name, you want to give it a root password, so set host name, router, and set root authentication plaintext password and give it a password. Okay, so that's something you absolutely have to do. You're probably going to want to set the time zone. So set time zone, in this case it's America, Los Angeles, but of course you wouldn't set that, you'd set Brisbane, Australia. You know, if you were setting it up here, you'd want to set that up. And you want to be able to set up access. So you want to set up some services that allow you to get access into the system. So you're going to create these things which are system services. So you're going to go into set system services telnet and set system services SSH, okay, to allow those services into the device. Okay, so if we go to top, we'll go to set interfaces, give it an interface name. This is us now creating, and I put in an IP address on the interface that we're going to use to connect to the device. So this is where we're going to SSH into. So in our devices, this is the 0/0/0 interface. Okay, whether it's GE or FE depends on your device, but this is the 0/0/0 interface. And we have gone ahead and given it your particular IP addresses. So you're either 10.10.40.30 something or 10.10.40.60 something. So 30 is the rack 1 and 60 is the rack 2. Okay, so that's your addresses. So this has already been done on ours, but if you go and load the factory default configuration, this is what you'll have to do. You have to go and set all this up. So set interfaces, unit 0. Now, let's talk about this unit 0 idea here. Remember when we did Cisco and we were doing VLANs, right? And we created what they call sub-interfaces. Remember that? We had a physical interface with a number of logical interfaces attached to it. Okay. Well, the thing is this. In reality, routers always have logical interfaces, even if you don't specify any. Okay. So with Cisco, it was there, you just didn't see it. With Juniper, you're seeing it. So if we're only going to have one logical interface, then it's unit 0. Okay, but the reality is, on one physical interface, you can have multiple logical interfaces, all with their own, attached to their own networks, all with their own configurations. Okay, so the unit is the logical interface. So really, it's like a logical interface. Okay, so what we're doing is we're saying this is the physical interface. So it's say GE 0/0/0. This is the logical interface, unit 0. I could have put unit 1, unit 2, unit 101, unit 500. Okay, so whatever the unit is. Okay. So I'm specifying which logical interface I'm configuring. If you're only using one, then it's always unit 0. Now the family is the protocol family. So you always specify a protocol family on a Juniper interface. And in this case, the family is INET, and INET is for Internet Protocol version 4. So if I'm going to be putting an IPv4 address on that interface, then I need to say family INET. Okay? If I'm putting IPv6 on there, then I'm going to have family INET 6. So in this case, it's IPv4, so family INET. Then I simply use the address. Okay, now in Cisco, we didn't do that. What we did, we typed in IP address. So the IP specified that this was IPv4. It was, if I was going to put IPv6 on interface, you actually type IPv6 and then put that address on the interface. Okay, so kind of similar idea, but we're going family INET address, and then there's my address, and you notice that with my subnet mask, I'm using my CIDR notation for that, rather than typing out the subnet mask. Okay, so in Juniper, just put / whatever it happens to be. Okay, if you don't put a /, it assumes /32. Okay, so if you forget to put the /, it will say /32. All right, that's what it's going to be. So the command is set interfaces, give it the name, GE whatever, or FE whatever, unit 0, family INET, address, put the IP address, / whatever. So if it's a 255.255.255.0 network, then it's /24, right? So / whatever it is. So there we are. We've set up our interface. That's all happy now. All done. We've got an IP address on our interface. The next thing we're going to want to do is to create a route to our management network. So we're going to create a static route. Okay, why are we doing that? Well, because what we're going to do, we're currently sitting here with our laptop with a console cable plugged into the device, configuring it for the first time. What we want to do is take that device, plug it into a rack, plug it into the network, and then go somewhere else and back to our office and SSH into it and finish configuring it from there. All right, or maybe load a configuration in or whatever we're going to do to it. All right, but this is just the initial configuration, straight out of the box. Let's just get it so that we can use it. So we're going to put a static route back to our management network. So here we are, set routing options, static. So the type of route is a static. Put the word route in there, and then we're going to put in the address that we're routing, or the network that we're routing to. In this case, it's 10.0.1.0. In our case, for our VPN, it's actually 10.0.0.0/8 is our route. So anything starts with 10, we're happy. Okay, we can get to it. The next hop is what? The next hop is your gateway to, or out of that network to the next, or it's the next downstream router. So remember in Cisco, you didn't actually write the words next hop. You just put space and then wrote the next hop. Okay, in Juniper, actually write the words next hop and then put your next hop.
Can you set an interface as next hop instead of that?
Yeah, so the next hop can be an interface. Usually it's an address though. Most of the time it's an address. Yeah.
Okay, and then we're going to commit the changes. So we'll do a commit and quit.
Why do we need to set this route to get the manager interface? Because regarding Cisco, it's assumed as a directly connected interface, so we don't need to create a new route to get that because we already have it. If you do like show IP route in Cisco, you can see that.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing that you are setting a new route to get the interface. Did you get it?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
It's like, it seems like it's a part of the interface.
Yeah.
Because all of them belong to the same network, if you see.
Actually, they do, yeah. Yeah. You wouldn't actually, those addresses are not very good examples of what you would need to do.
That's just...
I'll show you our configurations. It makes more sense. So we what are we here? We are 30. So the address is 31/27.
Yeah, the next one is 128.
The next one.
129.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's the next option.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's inside the.
It's inside the same network.
That 27. That's why
it is.
We assume that it's directly connected network. You don't need this route to get there.
Well, what could happen here? Let's just say that the management network is on another. It's actually the management network could be on another network. Like the management network could be not in this /27 network. It could be out on another network, but which still would be included in the /24. See what I'm saying?
I got it.
Yeah.
It's just like.
So it is strange, but yeah, like I mean, it's not a very clear example, I don't think. Okay. Yeah, but I see what you're saying. The management network, you know, in this scenario, you say, well, it's not included in the /27, but it would be included in the /24. Like if you look at our next hop, our address is 10.10.40.31/24. Okay. But our route is 10.0.0.0/8 with an next hop of 10.10.40.1. So the /24 still falls within the /8. Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, but our VPN endpoints actually start with 10 dot something. Okay, 10 dot something, 10.255.255 or something like that. So let's start with 10. Okay, so basically what that means is if you connect via the VPN from anywhere, you will always be able to get to your devices with that route. That's essentially what it means. Right, just a point of that, it's if you're setting up access for the management network, it's best to use a static route, a more specific route than a default route. That's what I'm saying, okay? In other words, don't put the default route back to your management network, all right? Because that's probably not what you want it to be. Put a specific route to your management network. Okay, another point here, this might be made on the next slide actually. So show configuration and view the results. There it is there. That's what we've actually configured. Yeah, just another little point here. Just want to go back. When you're setting up a route to your management network, there's another really useful parameter that you can put there, and it is the no re-advertise parameter. And what that means is that this route will never be re-advertised by any other routing protocols. So it's never going to be distributed by another routing protocol somewhere else, because it's only a route to your management network. You don't want it to be redistributed. I'll show you an example of that on some of our other configurations. So that's it there. Now, remember I was talking about the rescue configuration, the save all if everything goes absolutely horribly wrong. Okay, this is your parachute. You create that with the request system configuration rescue save command. So that's the command that creates the rescue configuration. So what happens is, you get a configuration working, you're happy with it, it's all really good, and then you create your rescue configuration. Okay, you can delete it, but once you've saved it, you can go back to it, rollback rescue. Okay, we'll get you back to it, and then you commit it. Okay, that's a really handy little feature. Okay, so far so good. Okay, okay, so far so good. Right. Okay, interface configuration. So, very important part of configuring a device. Interface connect to networks and provide a service. Example of interfaces include management, internal, control, and forward. That connects the control and forwarding planes. You don't have to mess with that. We don't configure that. That's just there. A network type interface provides a media-specific network connectivity. I think an example of that is if we went through and looked at some interfaces, there was one which was called the PP0 interface. And what that does is if you are connecting to a point-to-point protocol, for example, an internet connection where you're using PPPoE, okay? You actually configure the parameters to connect to that service on you actually configure the PPPoE parameters on that interface, which is a logical interface. You then associate it with a physical interface. I'll get into that later. I'll show you that. Services. Capabilities for manipulating traffic before it's delivered to a destination. Loopback interface is a logical interface. It's always up, and all GNOS devices use the LO0 designation for that interface. You guys. So they are named according to the interface media type. So, for example, GE or FE are the ones that we're going to be mostly using. Then they always have a three-digit numbering scheme separated by a slash. And the way that goes is it's a line card, interface card, and port number. So 0/2/3 in this case. So it's port 3 of gigabit Ethernet PIC in slot 2 on FPC 0. The reason for that is Juniper makes some very big complex devices, and we can plug multiple cards into them. Okay, so you have a backplane, and then you plug cards into a backplane, and the cards have got interfaces on them. So you have this hierarchical kind of structure, this naming structure, which is the same for massive big devices with lots and lots of interfaces as it is for little tiny devices with only very few. But they use the same structure, the same interface naming structure right the way through. Unlike Cisco, where you'll get a device with a FE 0/1, you might get another device with an FE 0/01. So that kind of changes depending on the device. Juniper is just uniform right the way through. What else are we looking at here? Okay, so similar to sub-interfaces used by other vendors, GNOS uses logical units, which we kind of referred to before. You always specify the logical unit when you're configuring a Juniper interface. Some encapsulators support only one logical unit. For example, if I was configuring an interface as a switching interface, as a switch port, I can only have one logical unit on that. Other types of encapsulation will support multiples. Like I can have multiple IPv4 addresses or IPv6 addresses. Logical unit numbers are separate in meaning from circuit identifiers and don't need to match. What do I mean by that? Well, I could have a VLAN of a particular a VLAN tagged interface. I could have a VLAN number of 100. I could have a logical interface of 2, and it wouldn't matter. They don't have to be the same for them to actually work. Same as in Cisco, but it is usual practice to make them the same. It's usual practice to make my logical interface number the same as my logical circuit, whether it's a VLAN, VLAN tag, or whatever it happens to be. You'll get to do that in your labs. Support for multiple protocols. One of the point here is watch for multiple addresses when correcting mistakes. I mentioned this before in that in Cisco, you just go and put the address on again to correct a mistake. With Juniper, if you do that, you'll end up with 2 addresses on the interface instead of 1. Okay, so physical properties, we've got the data link layer protocol, the link speed and duplex, physical maximum transmission unit. There are physical properties and there's logical properties like the protocol family, so IPv4, INET, IPv6, INET 6, ISO, MPLS, Ethernet switching. So I can configure an interface to be a switch port. Just a switch port, Ethernet switching. IPv4, IPv6 addresses and ISO-NET addresses can be put onto the interfaces, and virtual circuits, VLAN tags, DLCIs, VPIs or VCIs, okay, which is frame relay and ATM, which we probably don't use anymore, but there are other things that you can put on there which we will use, and we'll get to that as we go along. Okay, so here we have the interface name. We have some physical properties here. So physical properties I can configure under the interface name. Then we have the unit number, and then the logical properties I configured under the unit number. So there's physical properties and logical properties that I can configure on an interface. Logical properties would be the IP address, for example. VLAN tags, the logical properties. This is an example where we've got more than one address on an interface. So here we have address 172.19.102.1 / 24, and then we've got the same with a .2/24 on the same interface. So they've got two addresses, part of the same network, right, in the same network, and yet they're both sitting happily on the same interface. Okay, and we can use the preferred option for one of the interfaces. Now, why would I be using the preferred option? What does that do? Essentially, if I am pinging something on that network, the preferred address is my source address for my ping. Okay, down here, I can do the same on my loopback interface, but I want you to notice that these two addresses are on different networks. Okay, and I use the primary command to specify which of those is my primary loopback address. So where they're on the same network, it's preferred. Where they're on different networks, is primary, to identify that. So what's the purpose of a primary loopback address? Again, if I was sort of pinging out, this would become my source. If I was picking out something in that range, the primary address just means that's the loop. That's how we're going to identify that loopback interface. Okay, show interface is terse, which is a command I've showed you that, like Cisco's interface brief, quickly verify the state of the interfaces. And we go through. We'll see they're up. We'll see the protocol that's used, or the protocol family that's used, and the addresses that are there. In this case, we've got an example of inet.6 with some IPv6 addresses, and you notice in both cases we've actually got multiple addresses on each of those interfaces there. So we've got a couple of IPv4 addresses, and we've got a couple of IPv6 addresses on the same logical unit. Okay. In this case, it's logical unit 0. You can tell by the .0 that that's a logical unit 0. Okay, and it's got 4 IP addresses, 2 IPv4s and 2 IPv6s sitting on that same interface, which is possible to do on a Juniper device. Okay. Okay, in this chapter, we return a device to running the Junos OS to its factory default state by using the command load factory default. Remember that? Okay. The initial configuration tasks, which essentially were give it a name, give it a password, set root authentication plaintext password, put an IP address on the interface so we can connect to it, tell it what services we're going to allow in, so SSH, Telnet, and set a route back to your management interface so you can connect to it. Sorry, back to your management network so you can connect to it. Okay. Okay, so review questions. Which command do you use at the shell prompt to enter operational mode? So you've logged in as root. You're at the shell prompt, and now you want to get into operational mode. What is the command? CLI, correct. Yep. Which configuration parameter is required during an initial configuration? In other words, what do you absolutely must configure before you can commit anything?
Password.
The password, yep. It is set system root authentication plain text password. Which final configuration mode command must you enter to enable your initial configuration? So we're going to enable it now. Make it go live. What's the command? Commit. Yep, commit. Which parameters might be configured under the logical unit hierarchy level forward interface? So what logical things will we configure? Give me some examples of logical things we might configure. What about an IP address? Yeah. IPv4, IPv6. Yeah, that would be something we would configure. The
interface description.
No?
Description.
Encryption.
Description.
Yeah. Oh, description. Yeah, you could put that. Yeah, definitely put a description on there. Yep. Exactly. We might put VLAN tagging on there or other types of logical things as well. Okay. So we have lab 2 that we are going to be doing, which is perform tasks normally associated with initial configuration for a device running a Junos OS and configure interfaces for layer 3 operation. Okay, so that will be the other lab we're going to do. So far we've got 2 labs to do. Okay, lab 1 and lab 2. How are we doing so far? Okay. Alright. All good. All good. Okay. So far so good. Alright. Had enough for the day. Okay, you can see a few people going, I am dying here. Alright, wrap it up for the day and have a little early mark. And we'll see you. We're going to do the labs on campus. Okay, on campus. So if you want to come in tomorrow, we'll get started on the labs. Okay, all good. If you want to do the labs remotely, you are welcome as well. Okay, just organise it amongst yourselves. That's fine. Alrighty. Okay, guys. Ciao.